What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Cool Colas here, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. For today's topic, we're going to be talking about Kid Rock and some of his comments that he had on Kendrick Lamar's performance at the Super Bowl halftime show. So let's get into it. Well, look who crawled from up under a rock and decided to try to make his presence known after getting off the meth pipe. Let's talk about everything around Kid Rock today, y'all. Kid Rock recently did an interview with Bill Maher, and for anybody who knows about him, he's also another covert suspected white supremacist, and he had a lot to say about the Kendrick Lamar halftime show performance. One of the first comments that he made was that Kendrick Lamar got the gig because of Jay-Z. And I really want to dive into that first comment. Kid Rock is a man, a white man at that, who built his entire career off of the backs of black culture. So he can't really sit around here and talk about how one of us got a lucky handout because of somebody else. I mean, dude, you literally profited off of a culture that you low-key have vitriol for. So let's be real. And I guess that would make you a DEI hire in hip-hop, now wouldn't it? He also mentioned that he didn't think that Kendrick Lamar would have gotten the gig had it not been for Colin Kaepernick kneeling. And he also mentioned that it got his panties in a bunch like the rest of white America, or most of white America. And that's because a speculated white supremacist would be upset with a black man protesting the covert and overt racism that white America was filled with. They claim it's a form of disrespect, but what could be more disrespectful than stealing from, enslaving, raping, and seizing control of a group of people in a country that you didn't even build up on your own, and then reaping all of the benefits of what has been built up, and then projecting your own motives of disrespect onto a group of people who protested the way you went about it after their people, their ancestors, actually created the country, and after watching you repackage it into what we see today. On another note, Kid Rock was softcore hating, just as all speculated white supremacists do when they see a black person's success and they can't cut it or measure up when they're in the same profession. They see a black man getting opportunities and they start projecting all their insecurities and not being able to cut it and all these other issues that really are within them onto that person. He's a washed up, failed rapper, I guess, who has to stay relevant by giving hot takes on black people who are doing phenomenal things, and also black people who aren't even really thinking twice about him. He also made the claim that Kendrick getting this opportunity was the very definition of DEI. And I find that interesting because a lot of speculated white supremacists, especially on the right, love to use coded language to say things like DEI and woke to mean black. So whenever you hear them say DEI or woke or any type of other dog whistle, what they're usually referring to is black people without directly referring to them, because they have hatred and vitriol and they have this jealous spirit within them. So they say these things in order to avoid getting the claim of being a racist, because if they say these types of buzzwords, they can go back if somebody makes that claim and say, well, I didn't say black people, I didn't say this, I didn't say that, in order to avoid having that label stuck to them. Kid Rock is like a white Kanye West, but less interesting, less talent, less money, less respect, and more drugs. I have to say this over and over and over again, but black people are the least likely to actually get DEI benefits anyway. So even projecting that is the total antithesis of what it actually is. So really, if we're being honest here, black people only get 4% of the DEI or diversity related jobs to even begin with. As a matter of fact, Kendrick Lamar's performance was everything that DEI is not. I mean, think about it. It actually included black people, and only black people, like it should have in the first damn place. He also said that Kendrick Lamar was speaking to black people in the hood. So let me be the first to correct Kid Rock on that statement. Kendrick Lamar was speaking against tetherism and cultural appropriation and culture vultures like him, which he would know a whole lot about. And he was speaking to all foundational black Americans, regardless of where they grew up or where they live at, because we all deal with the system of white supremacy and how it actually affects all of us. And we especially know what that system is like when dealing with passive aggressive, racist cretins like him, hitting the meth pipe on the daily and eating mayonnaise out of a jar with a spoon. And by the way, y'all, don't get hung up on the fact that he said that he thought that all of this was hilarious and he thought it was awesome. This was nothing more than a backhanded compliment. And to be honest, this was also a way for him to throw shade so he can stay relevant, because he's in the game again of staying relevant versus actually making something that is talented and that is good and that people enjoy, because nobody actually gives a flying shit about him. But let's look at his resume for a second. This is the same Kid Rock who was waving around a gun and then shouting out the N-word. This was the same Kid Rock who had called the Detroit rapper Trick a racial slur as well too. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he also called him the N-word. And I hate to mention this, like I absolutely just do not even want to mention this, but Kid Rock is a Michigander just like me, unfortunately. And I want to clear a few things up about that as well, too. He likes to say he's from Detroit, but Kid Rock is not from Detroit. Kid Rock is from Romeo. I know where Romeo is at, and I've been to Romeo before, and it is literally in the middle of nowhere compared to the rest of the Detroit area. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even consider it a part of Metro Detroit. Just so y'all know, Kid Rock's name is Mud in Michigan. So us Michiganders, we don't claim him whatsoever, despite the fact that we know he's actually from there, unfortunately. That's almost not even the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this man, though. I bring all of this up to remind you that this is the same dude who also was flying the Confederate flag in his performances between the early 2000s and into the 2010s. Hell, in 2011, those Sambos in the NAACP decided to honor Kid Rock, and they got a lot of criticism for it, and rightfully so, because why would you honor somebody who was going around flying the Confederate flag? And by the way, in case you all are wondering, the reason why I blame these buttermilk biscuit eating Negroes is because at the time in 2011, when he was honored with a Great Exception Award. If you didn't know what the award was that he got, the NAACP was led by a man named Ben Jealous. Ben Jealous was a biracial black man. To me, this whole scenario almost reminds me of when you have this biracial person, this mixed black person who says something like, I grew up getting hate from both sides, and then you honor your suspected white supremacist parent or friend or whoever, or excuse their racist behavior. But again, the NAACP was founded by white people to begin with, so who knows what type of influence is still there within. Side note, I hope that Kid Rock's biracial son, which I don't know if y'all knew, but he actually has a black son, is not on that same tip, or at least allowing his presence to be a justification as to why his father is not a flaming, drunken white supremacist. When Kid Rock was first criticized about flying around the Confederate flag, his justification was that it represented Southern pride in rock and roll music and it looks cool. But we really need to take a look into what's really going on with all that. First of all, what if someone saw a KKK hat, for example, and they said it looks cool? Would there be a justification and somebody say, well, it represents religious pride? Or would everybody just know that this is a symbol of hatred, specifically hatred for black people? A lot of speculated white supremacists love to do this thing that I call the being a thing without being called a thing agenda. And I guess this would also apply to Sambos as well too. So in other words, they like to be racist without being called racist. Or in the case of a Sambo, they love to coon without being called a coon. To break this down even further, they love to try to do something, in the case of somebody who is white, that is racist, and then justify that racist action in order to avoid the racist label. So again, you can take that same logic and apply it to a Sambo because it works the same way. Now, when it comes to the Confederate flag, they attempt to diminish the true definition of this flag, which is really embedded in wanting black people to return to a time period where they were enslaved and all of these other horrible things were happening to them. And they tried to attach other definitions to it, like Southern pride, or it was the pride in rock and roll, which, by the way, rock music was created by black people as well too, and you're definitely not honoring no black people. So we could literally say that it's all of these other definitions, right? And that's used to try to diminish the fact that there's only one true definition, and or justify how honoring this flag is actually racist, to again avoid the racist label. I mean, hell, you can't just bring a skunk into your home and then say that it's a damn house cat with a white stripe. And you have to look at Kid Rock and say, well, even if you really did mean that you were flying this Confederate flag because it was a symbol of Southern pride, ain't you from the North? I mean, really, like, you're from Michigan. So what type of Southern pride do you have? You ain't even from there. That don't make no sense. But even if we are talking about the Southern Confederacy, these people aren't even patriotic. So what is there to even have pride in? What is there to actually be proud of? These are individuals who are trying to isolate themselves from America. They didn't have patriotism. So what actually are you proud of? And that's why it always goes back to the enslavement factor. The idea that black people were present in a time period where they were enslaved, they were raped, pilfered, pillaged, and controlled beyond their will. I could go on and on and on, but this whole topic has mayonnaise spread all over it. Kid Rock was once asked about why he can't be canceled, and he responded saying, "I love it when they try." And my response to that is, we don't have to cancel you. You are too irrelevant for anyone to even care about in the first place. All right, y'all. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. If you guys want to continue to see content from me, then I would love it if you hit the like button, subscribe button, share button, and bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new stuff on this channel. Other than that, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.